guys, I'm Grace.
And I'm Natalie, and this is Sunday Slipstream.
Welcome back to another episode. Sorry we skipped a week, all the holidays, things were crazy, but we're back, and...
You're dying.
Really
She has the plague.
So please excuse my voice for the entirety of this episode. But I guess we'll just jump right in. I guess things are still happening towards the end of the season, and I think the question on everybody's mind is, with so many rookies next season, are any of them even going to finish the season? I mean...
Or are we going to have a Franco Colapinto situation again where everyone just wrecks?
With, like, all of them. And I think it's going to be interesting to see, because now that we've seen a year where apparently team principals are so willing to have and drop drivers depending on performance, this could be really like another hotcake season, because 2024 was definitely one for the books. Yeah. And I feel like the one I'm most concerned about, not concerned about, but like questionable, is will Liam Lawson even finish the season? And I'm seeing a lot of discourse that, like, poor guy, no one thinks he's going to be there very long.
Poor kid.
But
Helmut Marko will do anything he can to keep him, though, at this point.
Yeah, because he's, like, their poster.
Yeah, he's their new poster boy. Christian's been so open about how, like, he doesn't care about Yuki at this point.
Yeah.
Like, he hasn't said that he hates him or anything like that, obviously, but he's not been quiet about the fact that Yuki might not have a seat after 2025.
And both Christian and Helmut have been vocal for years about how Max Verstappen is their brand. We touched on it, I think, last episode, about how Formula One, I think teams now are just focusing so much on forming brands versus almost to the importance level of the driver's talent. And so the fact that Max Verstappen is Red Bull, you know, the second teammate on that team, just they've been open about the fact that, you know, they just have to get along with him, you know, and that's basically their role. And they know they're coming in second fiddle because Max is God, essentially. And
according to Christian, he's the most valuable asset to the team.
Exactly.
Like, direct quote.
He's even said to Formula One as a whole. And so I think that, you know, Liam is going to probably be there for that reason, just because he is so new. So, of course, he's going to be happy with whatever. Yeah. But if he is actually good, it's going to get to a point like it would with anyone where they're not going to want to play second fiddle for very long. So that'll be interesting to see.
In that same interview, Christian Horner had mentioned, you know, like the situation with Ferrari coming up, about how, like, I think it was they're going to be taking points from each other. And with Charles and Lewis, it's going to be really tense. And he said, like, which horse are you going to back? Which horse for Ferrari? But it will probably be Lewis. Like, no offense to Charles, but it'll probably be Lewis. He's got the world championships behind him. He's got the tenure, but also, according to Toto, less dexterity.
And they've dumped so much money into him being there that it would almost be like a brand embarrassment if they didn't make him look like he was doing amazing. Yeah. So I think it's going to be an interesting awakening for Charles, because he's used to being the number one boy. But
yeah. Well, and Lewis is already, like, he makes himself so public. He does, like, brand deals so much more than I ever see with Charles. Like, Lewis is, like, the poster child for, like, it looks like this, but it's not. So, like... He's vegan, so it looks like meat, but it's not. And then he's also a brand ambassador for Almave or whatever it's pronounced as. Like, it looks like alcohol, but it's not. It looks like a Ferrari driver, but it's not.
That's actually so funny. No, I never actually thought of that, but that literally is his brand.
His brand is. It looks like it, but it's not. But, like, he's already got people talking about him so much more than people talk about Charles. So, like, Ferrari is obviously going to be looking at the one they spent more money on, the one that they got rid of a really good driver for when they got rid of Carlos, and then it's going to be competing against Charles, who has proven in the last season that he gets a little antsy when his teammate does better than him.
Right, and I think it's going to be like a McLaren situation where the team, their meetings, whatever, they can say, you know, every driver is equal for as long as they can, but someone has to cross the finish line first. So at the end of the day, that can't be true. And so it's going to be interesting to see. Yeah, well, that's what's so unique about Formula One, is, like, yeah, they're on the same team, but they're also still competing.
It's so unique compared to other sports where, like, if it's like soccer or football, you're all on the same team. No one on your team is going to be like the direct competitor with you. Like, of course, like American football, like the Heisman Trophy or whatever, one person's going to get it or whatever, but it's not the same as, like, oh, this person on your team could get points and then this one's going to be crashing into the wall.
Right.
Like,
it's different than like a personal accolade versus like an actual
points versus you did great.
Exactly.
Yes,
exactly.
it's so weird, but
and, you know, again, talking about how easy it is for Red Bull or whatever team at this point to cut off ties if you know they're not serving you. We saw how quickly, well, not as quickly as some of us would have assumed, but how Checo did eventually get the door shut on him.
It's so sad that they let him just say, no, I'm not going anywhere for like a whole half of a season, and then as soon as the season's over, they're like, actually,
I feel like that definitely means that behind closed doors they're like, no, like, you're gonna stay, you know, like, because I think like from his own like morale or whatever, they probably were like, oh, we can't tell him,
right?
Or else
Exactly.
maybe he would quit trying, which he wasn't. Whatever, it wasn't looking good for him.
No,
either way.
But you could tell, like, if the fans were speculating about it already, and they were like, people were asking him, "Are you sure you're going to be here next season?"
Right.
Like, you know that there were reasons for it. It's not like, oh, okay, like, yeah, totally, no reason for Checo to think he's gonna leave. There were plenty of reasons.
Exactly.
But Checo, he's very funny.
Yes. I was scrolling social media and I saw that he like posted like Merry Christmas to the fans, and then he said, and like during this time we should think of the less fortunate, and I thought it was so funny. It's like, are you talking about yourself?
It gave the same energy as when someone was asking Bottas about his charity, and he's just like, it's for people experiencing sudden job loss, which like, is Checo going to be taking advantage of it at this point?
He needs to get a Bottas, be like, hey man,
who is employed again. So
you're right.
Like,
you're right.
Speaking of people not making it through the season, imagine Kimi doesn't make it through and Bottas gets a seat on Mercedes.
People are thinking that that's gonna happen because it's like, again, it was anything can happen during a one-time situation, but like the only times we've seen Kimi in the car, he's crashed it. So I mean, it's really, I mean, and you can have as much talent as you have in F2, F3, but at the end of the day, Formula One's so different. Even if the car is different, which it is, the pressure is different, you know, just all that recognition is different, and so like, it's gonna be so different for these rookies having to acclimate to that environment, and we're gonna see who can, you know, make the cut, I guess.
Yeah, well, and like Kimi has like, and as well as all the other rookies, but it's like this weird thing, like everyone wants the next Max Verstappen, and Toto has made that pretty clear that he wants Max. So he's basically just, sorry George, you're great. When you're beefing with Max, it's really funny for me, but at the end of the day, I want a new Max. I want the next Max on the grid. Like, that's what he's looking for. He's said it multiple times. And poor George, always a bridesmaid, never the bride.
Exactly.
But Kimi has that pressure of, now I have to be like Max Verstappen. And Liam has, I have to be like Max Verstappen. And Isaac, I have to be like Max Verstappen.
Exactly.
It's that pressure of, how do I match the level of the guy who just won the world championship?
Exactly.
You know?
They all want that next brand, that next big thing, and it's gonna be so different for them, I think, to figure out how they fit into that narrative and kind of create their own.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of Isaac, he's been performing better than Yuki, which goes back to another reason why Christian might not want to keep Yuki after 2025. He's been on the team for a few years now, but he clearly saw something in Liam that he didn't see in Yuki.
Right.
And now he's seeing something in Isaac that he didn't see in Yuki. Like, poor Yuki. He does a great job, but I think his anger is a detriment rather than motivating like it is with Max.
Exactly.
Max gets motivated by that.
Yeah. And I think to a degree, of course, you can't expect everyone to react to certain situations the same way, but it's more so, I think, it was a situation where Daniel Ricciardo at the time made Yuki look better than maybe how he's looking now with some competition his own level. I don't know. Of course, Daniel Ricciardo was amazing in his prime. Exactly. The grid won't be the same without him, but
never.
It's
really unusual to see all the behind the scenes things being talked about while the season's not even happening. It's one thing to see like this happening during the season because you can see the performance of someone and be like, oh yeah, they haven't won, they haven't gotten points, they haven't gotten a podium, but now it's like just post-season testing and we're already hearing Yuki's not doing that great.
Exactly.
Like, that's not great. That's not a great look. And they have reserve drivers, so if he doesn't do great, sorry dude, you're out.
And it's gonna be so interesting to see, will will there be shifts within different teams like that are already signed? Like, is there possibilities that somebody could buy out someone's contract mid-season? Like,
yeah, you never know.
I mean, I feel like with this past season, anything's possible. So now we can start saying this season because we're 3 days into 2025.
Oh my goodness, it's crazy.
I'm excited to see what Drive to Survive will drum up.
I'm anxious. What are they gonna do with Brazil?
I don't even know.
Brazil 2024 was insane. Like, Lance Stroll just driving into the gravel pit is like my favorite thing. It's like my mood board. Like, I'm gonna take a break.
We love Lance. Well,
speaking of reserve drivers, his team's never gonna have it. They're never gonna use them.
they're always pretty set up.
They're gonna be hoping that like all the reserve drivers on Racing Bulls suck and they'll get a chance.
Exactly. No, and I think it's interesting because, like we were just saying, like, while Aston Martin may never change, is there a possibility that Red Bull could change? Because are we going into an era where Red Bull is a midfield team? I think we've already seen this year how that could be a possibility.
Yeah.
We touched on wind tunnels last episode and how Red Bull isn't finished with building theirs until I believe 2026. And so and also they're getting this ties into a whole nother conversation of the Honda partnership that's ending. And that also tied into Christian Horner's excuses for not potentially wanting Yuki anymore, because he's coming with the Honda partnership that is then ending, so it's not even really advantageous of them anymore to have him. And so the Honda partnership has been everything for Red Bull for well over a decade, I believe. And so it's going to be so interesting to see how are they going to acclimate to a Ford motor.
I was going to say Ford of all motors to switch to. I mean, people who drive Fords every day don't even like their motors.
Right. And I mean, I think they are lucky in the fact that the partnership's ending in 26 when everybody has to do a complete overhaul for the new like electric whatever regulations. So everybody's car is going to have to look significantly different than it has for the past few years, but that's still a brand new partnership that could take a few years for them to actually be successful. Like, is Red Bull the new Williams?
Yes, is Red Bull the new Williams? Is Williams the new Red Bull with Carlos coming in? Exactly. You know, like Alex doesn't really bring much, but Carlos, he's been pushing so hard, and it's almost like he's cursed, where like every time he gets on a team and he gets them like just to that point, and then he's gone, like to the point where they're doing really well, and they're like, thanks for laying the groundwork so that like someone else can do amazing. Thanks McLaren. Thanks so much.
It's beginning to look like Daniel Ricciardo's past record. It's, again, always the bridesmaid,
never the bride.
But yeah, and it seems like we both sent each other like Williams' new like promotional video. So it seems like, you know, they are just as invigorated by Carlos's coming as Carlos seems to be happy about it, at least publicly, or to help him not cry himself to sleep in it.
Carlos seems like such a dedicated guy. Like, you know that he's going you know that he's going to be like the number one fan for his team and for his engineers and everyone. Like, no matter what team he's on, he's going to be their number one fan, but he's also so courteous to every other team on the grid. Like, he's just such a gentleman.
Literally, that's the vibe he's giving, and him and Lando just makes sense why they're friends. And so I think it helps, you know, good morale, as everyone says. You know, it starts at the top, and having people who are excited about a project, you know, we might genuinely see a Williams turnaround.
We might. You never know. I mean, Carlos changing his Instagram bio is an indicator that he is a girl's girl. Williams is the girl, and he's a girl's girl. And then speaking of like Carlos, who is kind of like pushing these other teams to be so much better right before they get rid of him, we see like all the preparations for the next season coming in with like McLaren, with what did they do there, Wayne? You were telling me about this.
I mean, I think we're just seeing, as you said, just innovation all around, and as these teams had to get more creative to beat what was the Red Bull regime for so long.
Regime is such a harsh word.
But it was like, it was only them for so long. We saw what McLaren did with their wing this year, and they essentially turned the front wing into a mini DRS. What McLaren did was innovation, and I think we're going to keep seeing teams, like we were just saying, who knows what Williams is going to drum up, who knows what Sauber is going to look like in 26 when they form to Audi. I think we're going to be looking at, you know, a whole new era of Formula One. And I think it's exciting because I think, you know, nothing that doesn't have innovation is very interesting for very long. So,
well, and like think about how innovative is like some of the teams where they have completely new teams now, where they didn't keep a single driver from before are going to have to change, like Haas and Sauber. Like they're going to have to be innovative to match their new drivers because they're used to different cars. They didn't keep their old drivers on either of those teams.
And I saw a really interesting conversation. It was somebody else, a different podcast I was watching. Unfortunately, I forget who it was, but they were it was two girls, and they were mentioning the fact that, you know, each team does relatively super well for the amount of staff that they have, because when you look at a team like Sauber, they have like this isn't the exact numbers, but let's just say in the hundreds, 200 or so. And then when you look at a team like Red Bull, like McLaren, it's hundreds and hundreds of staff. And so when you think about the innovation that's able to be done with even smaller teams with a smaller amount of people, it's actually really impressive. And so it'll be interesting, like with everybody kind of purging from Red Bull, as George Russell pointed out, as most of the media pointed out earlier last year.
People saying, "Oh, look at what team's hiring right now. It's Red Bull."
Because everyone's leaving, and it's like, where are they going? You know, it's going to be interesting to pay attention to that, and also, you know, what does the landscape for other teams start to look like? Are they going to get, you know, bigger infrastructure because of, you know, their influenced workforce and stuff like that? So,
and sponsors too, like Carlos taking a big sponsor from Ferrari over to Williams is going to make a big difference,
and a big one leaving Red Bull. It was
Checo's took one, right?
Checo took some, and also I want to say Bybit.
Yeah,
it was like a $250 million sponsorship, and that ended. And so Red Bull could be looking at losing money and losing people. And so it's like, genuinely, I mean, these are big words now, but could we be looking at them genuinely struggling for points in the next few years? I don't know.
We don't really know what's going to happen, because like, it's so up in the air, because clearly they've been planning for 2025. They have to plan ahead, at least to some extent, you know, like they're already planning for like sustainability in 2030, which is going to be crazy to see anyway. Like we said last time, like I only know of like one electric vehicle that can go even remotely as fast, and that's Tesla's first model that they ever put out. And
so my question is this: I was actually talking about this with my cousin, and it's like, what then is going to distinguish Formula One with Formula E, which is Formula E is like genuinely all electric.
I had no idea that was even a thing.
It is a thing, and apparently it's very popular in Maine. Anyway,
Maine,
yes, which kind of makes sense. They're a bit like
the environmentally conscious people up there in New England.
Yeah, exactly. But my thing is like, if F1 really wants to do this, then what is going to be the differentiation? You might as well just go to a Formula E race. So it's going to be interesting as they kind of toe that line of like, what does sustainability mean to continue to be different than Formula E?
Yeah. Well, and what do they even mean by sustainable? Because production for electric vehicles still takes a toll on the environment, and then you can't get rid of the materials as easily as you can with traditional vehicles. It's a lot more involved. So is it genuinely more sustainable just because we're not using gasoline or diesel?
Right. And then it gets to a point of like, who are you placating? Because I feel like most of the audience, of course you have the new ages, but a lot of them are the traditional, you know, motorheads, and they're not gonna care about, you know, does my car, you know, put out such and such emissions. They want real racing. They want those real engines. They want the V10s back, you know. So
are they going to compromise the integrity of the race itself and the sport in general by trying to conform to a sustainability mindset, the same way that, like, how is Los Angeles going to be sustainable and completely emission free for the Olympics that they're hosting in 2028? Like, how are they going to do these things?
Because didn't we see Paris say they tried to do that, and we had hundreds of videos, you know, the cardboard beds are terrible, no one has AC, you know, so it's like, essentially you could do that, but I feel like the market anywhere is just or the infrastructure anywhere is just not ready for it. So are you going to actually compromise a lot of your...
Right. Like, sustainability hasn't seemed to be that sustainable yet. Like, the concept of sustainability is a great idea.
Exactly.
And, of course, like, we should be, like, good stewards of the world that we live in. Absolutely. But at the same time, are we really being good stewards if we're working around what we are already using and using well in order to try to create something and potentially causing more damage later?
Exactly.
We
How
don't
about we
really
just
know.
figure out what we're doing right now more efficiently? How do we figure out how to clean up our landfills right now? How do we figure out how to, produce, gas more economically now, or drill for gas more economically now versus, trying to find a different alternative that we're not really ready for, because we're seeing so many just even streetcar manufacturers roll back that date that was 2030 or whatever it was around there for a lot of manufacturers. They're rolling that back because they see, the market's not ready for it. People aren't running to buy this. It's not, there's really no infrastructure anywhere for it. So it's going to be interesting to see, are they going to still be looking for that goal in 26 or 27? I know 26 pretty set right now, but like, what does 2027 look like? Are they going to still be looking for that 2030 goal? Because that's soon. That's 5 years.
It's so much less time than we think it is. Like, 5 years is not a long time to completely restructure a sport that has been going on for so long.
Exactly.
Like you said, why bother if we already have Formula E? To appease the people who are very environmentally conscious and only care about that and not actually the sport itself.
Exactly. They're going to really have to define what sustainability means to them to be able to have that differentiation.
Yeah. Well, and how many drivers are going to just decide that they don't want to do it anymore when the cars no longer feel the same? How many team principals are going to stay whenever their team can't do well because the engineers can't work the same way? How many engineers are going to lose their jobs because they don't work on electric vehicles? What is actually sustainable about it? How many of these people are going to have to take advantage of Botas's charity?
It all comes back to that. Wait, he actually started it at the perfect time.
Perfect time.
Botas, plot twist, Botas is smarter than the entire sport.
Honestly, I'm so excited for this season because if he doesn't start driving, he's just gonna make goofy TikToks the whole time. And I'm so excited for it. Like, he's gonna make TikToks of just like handing his calendar out to people left and right. But for Toto, it's gonna be like full frontal instead of the back. Just to get a reaction.
I would love to get a reaction out of Toto. Would that be so fun?
Oh gosh, I love seeing pictures of Toto. Like, George posted a picture of him with a baby, and I was like, oh.
You're like, thank you, George. Community service for everyone.
Yeah, thank you, George, for your service.
No, but it's crazy. I think the sport is ever changing, and it's a good thing.
Especially with the fan base changing so much too. Like we said before, the American fan base is increasing significantly. It's still not as big here because people are so engrossed in NASCAR around here still, or even like dirt racing.
Or we get comments like we do all the time, like when we tell people we have a Formula One podcast, it's like, oh wait, isn't that just for European people? Or if there's
isn't that just for men? Which appalling.
Exactly.
First of all,
exactly. Like, actually, let's talk about this for a few minutes here.
Give me a second.
Exactly.
Actually,
I need to step it back. But no, I think Formula One is still rolling back some old stereotypes, and I think Drive to Survive is helping to facilitate that, or just the increased social media presence of drivers and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, because think about a few years back, honestly, the only ideas of Formula One that most Americans had years ago was in Lightning McQueen in Cars 1 and 2, where the little pit stop car is doing the pit stops for Lightning McQueen, and then Talladega Nights, where Sacha Baron Cohen is playing an F1 driver who is
a slur.
trying to be in NASCAR as if it was such a detrimental thing, as if NASCAR and Formula One are the same sport, vastly different. But that's all people really ever knew about Formula One before in the US, unless they were actually trying to understand it,
or actual motorheads. So yeah, it's interesting
as far as the masses go. Mainstream media.
The mainstream media has vastly changed. Just the fact that now you can kind of see Formula One more everywhere in different ads, and they're really getting their name out there through partnerships and different things like that. Talking about partnerships, it's going to be interesting. I feel like Rolex has been Rolex and Formula One have just been like one and the same for so long,
Mm.
and now they're switching to Tag Heuer. They lost that partnership, or that partnership ended. And I was in Vegas, and Emily, I forget her last name, but she's like head of marketing for Formula One. Really amazing person to talk to. But she was saying, you know, they made up for that with their American Express partnership. But it's just going to be interesting how things are changing all over. You know, typically, you know, on many circuits, that like headlining photos, you see like Rolex over the top of the strip, and that's going to be different now. So it's going to be interesting.
Sponsorships are going to change a lot, especially with like drivers moving around the grid so much. Like what sponsors are going to go with Lewis and had partnerships with George before,
right?
You know, what's going to change there? It seems so far that Tommy Hilfiger is sticking with George,
probably
because he's like the perfect poster child for their posh little British audience, I swear.
Well, I think it's Mercedes that they sponsor.
It might be,
and then it just rolls over to the drivers.
It might. I'm not really sure how it all works. Personally, I'm not into marketing.
Partnerships, no, no, but the way they do their partnerships, I haven't really delved in too much, but it is interesting.
But like sponsors can choose to go with drivers, is what we've seen. It's really interesting to see.
And then, like we were just saying, like with the increase of the potential sustainability, like is that going to affect what sponsors are able to sponsor people?
Ooh,
you know,
that's a good question, because like will they want to only sponsor,
right,
or will they only want to partner? Will like F1 only want to partner with sustainable brands?
Exactly. Like,
which is a big question.
Or will the brands themselves view it as, you know, a conflict of interest to be a part of something that looks like this when it once looked like that, but their brand looks very different? I don't know.
That's true. We don't really know how it's all going to work. Like 2030 seems so far away, but it's a lot closer than we think, and it's really interesting to kind of like speculate how this is going to change. Not just the sport itself, but how brands interact with the sport, and how the drivers choose to interact with the sport that they've dedicated their lives to at this point. You know, like people like Max Verstappen. Will Toto finally get his wish if they switch to a Ford engine and he hates it? Like,
I don't know.
Toto's carrying around that contract in his pocket, and he's just like, hey, they're getting a Ford engine.
For the sake of Toto, I hope he gets his way.
Sorry, Kimmy.
Sorry, Kimmy.
Unless Kimmy outperforms George, but it doesn't seem like it. No. Granted, George didn't do too great with some of his crashes. I'm a King George stan. I will always love King George.
You know, every driver has their day, and so
one of these days George will be the bride.
Exactly. I look forward to seeing
his 27 dresses moment will finally
exactly. So in the spirit of ending things on a light note, I feel like we've covered a lot of topics. I think the final thing we want to do is cover I think we want to do this every podcast now, but end everything on a light note.
Like a hypothetical question. Exactly. It's so much fun.
So, you go.
So, our question, like last time, it was like, who would be a Disney prince versus a Disney princess?
That was fun.
Which was really funny. Like, you guys seemed to really enjoy that. But this one, it's, what drink do you think would be like the drink they would go for at the bar? Like, for each driver?
Right. I still think Charles is pulling out a Shirley Temple.
A Shirley Temple, like a dirty Shirley.
Yeah, exactly. He's got to stick with the red, and
that's fair.
I feel like he's also kind of basic. So I'd say that, or we also said like a white wine.
A white wine, or like a rosé.
Yeah. And it's only from like some vineyard in like near Monaco or whatever.
Yep.
Max has said it's a gin and tonic. That makes sense for him. He's very simple. Like, whatever. He's just... I feel like Carlos gives the vibe of, like, whatever they're having, he'll have.
He does give that vibe, but I also think he would be, like, the type of guy who would, like, go to a frat party and try jungle juice and, like, make that his signature drink.
Right. And it would be one that Lando would have to drag him to.
Yes, because Lando doesn't drink. So, like, he would be the DD.
No, he definitely... Wait, what?
He's come out and said that he doesn't drink.
What?
Yes. Like, he hates alcohol. Like, that's why he won't, like, drink the champagne whenever they have it on podiums.
I feel like he's very much lying.
He says he doesn't drink.
Okay, wait, that's...
Or at least he has in the past.
Which we love. We love a good self-improvement. No, he said it was a... he did it for, like, the Formula 1 YouTube videos, but I think he said he likes lemon drop something.
That's so funny. Lemon drop?
I don't know. It was, like, lemon something... like soda. I don't know.
That's so funny.
What did we say? You had some good ones, like Alex. He's doing like...
Oh, Alex, I feel... Alex would do something fruity. I genuinely believe that Alex would do something fruity, but I think it would be something like a cosmopolitan or something like that. A daiquiri. He would do a strawberry daiquiri. Alex would do a strawberry daiquiri.
Like a huge straw.
With like a curly straw. Yeah, like it goes like the glasses. So like that gives Alex Albon vibes. I would say George would be a hot toddy. He would want tea and bourbon.
No, that makes sense. See, I never heard about that till you told me what that is. But to me, he gives that. Like, he gives just like he has to stick with the image. So he gives
so
like,
posh.
Give me like a vodka soda, like straight up, and it's gotta be like the best vodka, you know. So I feel like that's what he does.
I also get the vibes
from Lance.
Yeah, I just get the vibes from the Mercedes boys though. Like, they look at Toto. Toto's ordering like a whiskey and he's getting it neat, and they're like, "I'll try it," and then they like, spitting it out immediately. Especially like Kimmy, he looks like a haunted Victorian child. He's not gonna be able to drink whiskey.
No, when that poor boy can drink, it's gonna be funny.
Oh gosh. Well, depending on the country they're in, he can already.
You're right.
You know?
I forgot that they can do it young.
Yeah, the U.S. is the only one with like a really high age, because the U.S. is like, their prefrontal lobe. Their frontal lobes just ain't developed enough.
It feels like
quite yet.
21-year-olds make even worse decisions though than 18-year-olds.
Oh, absolutely. The 18-year-olds are just getting drunk in the woods and calling a friend to take them home. The 21-year-olds are getting sloshed at the bar and forgetting that Uber exists.
You're right. You really nailed it down.
American culture with drinking is very fun to observe. I would think that, like you said, Lance, I think Lance would just get like the most expensive thing at the bar, no matter what it is.
Vodka soda, but they give him Tito's. He's like, no, I wanted Grey Goose. You know, so like that's the vibe he's giving.
Yeah, he gives me just the most expensive thing.
Like, yeah. I don't know. Botas, is he drinking or is he like?
He just gives me like he'll drink a beer and then he'll like shotgun a beer.
Yeah, you're right.
He just gives me the same vibe. Like he will shotgun a beer like at a frat party.
And on the same front, Toto could drink like a Guinness. I feel like.
Oh, absolutely. Oh yeah, because he's Austrian. He would drink a dark beer.
Yeah.
But as far as like the drivers go, like Liam Lawson, I really picture him like drinking something.
A Mick Ultra.
Like no, I swear. No, but I feel like he would like try to play into the fact that he's from New Zealand and like get something with kiwis in it.
See, I feel like he gives a type of like wanting, like the Australian New Zealand type that like wants to cosplay as American, which is why I feel like he'd go for like an American drink. Like
he's like drinking Bud Light.
Exactly. I mean, like this is.
But it's a light beer because he can't get too many carbs.
Exactly. It's just a White Claw.
It's a White Claw. No, that's what that's what Oscar gives me. Oscar gives me White Claw vibes, like hard seltzer.
He gives me like, I'll just take a water. I don't see him even.
See, I feel like he would be like, oh, just give me a seltzer water, and they would give him a hard seltzer by accident.
Yeah, and he'd be like, yeah. You're right, actually.
And he just wouldn't care.
Yeah, he'd just be like, whatever.
He'd be like, alright, I guess, that's fine.
Like, anyone else around him would try and, like, heckle with the bartender. He's like, guys,
it's fine. It's literally fine.
I
don't know enough of the rookies to even think about.
No,
Esteban, I think, is just drinking straight tequila. Or a mojito.
He seems generally unhinged. That and Pierre, so...
Pierre Gasly's drinking wine.
And Jungle Juice.
Oh. He and Carlos are making Jungle Juice at the bar together.
You're right. That's actually so funny.
They're just like, okay, give me all the grain liquor and Kool-Aid packets you have.
Right now.
Right now, thank you.
No, you're so right. Guys,
you know they'd go to the store and ask for it.
No, they literally they'd be like, and we need it, and then we need also the good kind so that Charles will drink it with us.
Charles wouldn't drink it.
You're right.
Unless it's red.
He'd be like, are they gonna take pictures for my Instagram that look very AI generated? Okay.
I can't with his pictures lately. Good lord. And then like it's so over filtered, and then his girlfriend will post something and he'll look like a normal human being, and it's so creepy.
No, but like the fact that he has like a team, like he's got a team, a social media team. How are they letting these photos pass? Like who was thinking? Yes, like
are they going into ChatGPT and asking it to filter it? Like
maybe
like
it's that bad.
So bad.
Like if a normal human who he obviously has the revenue to pay for a good photo editor, they're like over editing this video, but he clearly likes it.
He's letting
like,
it go.
Posed.
Yes. Does the dog look good?
Yeah, that's all he cares.
Does the dog look good?
Exactly.
Does my child look good in this picture?
If I'm washed out, I don't care. Just get the highlights on his fur.
The highlights on his fur. The long hair, but is it a dachshund? It's so funny. It's so tiny.
It's so funny. Like, I don't really like
gosh.
mini dogs like that, but
I don't know.
oh well.
Oh, Lewis would get something vegan.
Yeah,
He would
and
like,
he'd be,
tell them what
really
to make
annoying
though.
about
He'd be
it.
so annoying. He'd be like, I need exactly half a shot of
Yeah,
this
yeah.
particular vegan vodka.
Yeah. And like he gives the type of like I think he's gonna be nice to the waiter because he's like friendly, but he's gonna be the type who is like he's gonna tell everyone very subtly that he's not drinking what they're drinking.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
It's like, oh, you guys are getting sloshed. Well, I don't.
I'm
participate
actually
in that.
drinking
Yeah.
non-alcoholic.
Yeah,
beer.
exactly. Like he makes sure the sticker is like there. You go.
Yeah, he's like, wait, how many pictures are you guys taking tonight?
Exactly. Tag on my baby.
Yes, tag this whole plethora of brands that I'm using to make my mixed drink with no alcohol. But like, you know, I could literally picture people like the new rookies though, like Ollie Bierman, like yeah, I feel like he would be like, I'm getting a daiquiri and be like, make it virgin.
Yeah. He's like just small bear.
Small boy. Small young lad. Jack definitely just chugging a beer.
Yeah.
I genuinely
What
picture
is he,
him.
Australian?
Yeah, he's Australian.
He
I literally
also
picture
gives-
giving him like
He gives the same
a whole
type
pint.
as he gives the same type to me as Liam of like
Mhm.
the type of Australian who wants to be American.
Mhm.
So I feel like they could also mix in some like American beers in that.
You know, they'll be over there like chugging beers with Botas, and Botas is just gonna be like shotgunning them left and right, and then they
he's still
can't keep
stone
up.
cold sober.
Yeah, and they can't keep up.
I feel like Botas is out.
And then he'll cover everyone's tab.
Yes, that's when we know he does fast.
Oh goodness.
No, but thank you
that's
guys.
it.
I think this was a fun little ending.
Mhm.
We're gonna stay around. We're really excited for this
Yeah.
season. Obviously, things are still gonna break as we get closer to
Mhm.
start dates. It's gonna be interesting to see the car unveiling. What's that happening in January?
It's sometime soon.
Yeah, I
it's
know.
already January.
You're
Goodness
right.
gracious.
All the drivers were like upset about having to travel to England to go to that, so that's gonna be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because it's like this is their break. It would be annoying to be like, oh, I have to travel to the other side of the world again.
Okay, but how many of them get more breaks than anyone working in corporate?
Oh no, 100%.
Like
They are
workplaces, like
extremely spoiled in their breaks, and even more so than their mechanics and stuff because they're still working through this. I'm
Mhm.
sure. So yeah, at the end of the day, they're still very spoiled on their breaks, but it's just gonna be funny to see because I know all of the drivers complained about having to attend that. So
complain all you want, boys. It's
exactly,
your job.
It's still happening.
It's your job.
Exactly.
Fun fact: you get paid to do
Yeah,
this.
fun fact: $50 million. When $50 million a year clears, I wouldn't be complaining.
I wouldn't be complaining either.
No, but we'll still be around.
Mhm.
Things will keep happening. We'll cover Drive to Survive in its entirety.
Oh,
Maybe
gosh, I have to watch it.
episode by episode. I'm just kidding.
No, that would be way too
that'd
much.
be
I
insane.
actually have to watch it then.
No, like I feel like this will be one to watch. The
Mm.
previous ones I haven't watched more than one season in its
I've only
entirety.
seen clips from it, and like my favorite one
Yeah.
is like the Checo's been complaining about his car. I have receipts.
And
If there's
that's
something
the
wrong
most
with your
critical
car,
part.
then you fix the freaking
I'm
car.
ready to see if there was more behind the scenes Toto Christian beef, more than what was already. Very
I want to see
clearly
if there's
in the
more
video.
Max and George beef, or if it was just
Yeah.
all for the cameras.
Right. Yeah,
I'm so
yeah.
curious, like,
Yeah.
because they were so like buddy like 2 weeks before the beef went down.
Right.
So weird.
And Drive to Survive said they caught everything, so it's gonna be interesting to see. Like,
Yeah, poor Lando's like,
what
hey, I'm
was
actually
really
trying to talk to these people. Can you leave me alone?
Yeah. Yeah. They must have been everywhere. So I think Carlos said they follow each person individually 2 weekends a year. So
Not only do we have Drive to Survive, but we also have the F1 movie.
stop.
I forgot.
Like only like a month and a half later. 2
Oh
months
my
later.
gosh, it's so bad.
It's gonna be so interesting.
And I love how they're like making such a big deal about it, like about how like the premiere is on a race day or whatever. It's on Apple.
Yeah.
No one's going to the movie theaters to watch it either way. They're gonna go stream it that
Wait.
night if they want to see it. It's an
That's-
Apple movie.
You're so right.
Like, don't get me wrong, Apple makes great products. Like their
No,
shows and movies
but,
are great.
Like,
But
I would
like,
rather watch it at
I would
home
rather watch it. They're
than
not
go
gonna
to the
premiere it in
box
a, they're not
sales.
gonna premiere it
Are
in
they
theaters.
Wait, so
It's an Apple movie. It's the same as all their other movies. It's just premiering on the
that's-
Apple TV
That's
app.
gonna be interesting because unrelated, but just how Hollywood records their their box sale numbers.
Mhm.
What is that gonna look like? Because what if you don't have an Apple TV?
It'll be the same way as like Netflix. people who don't have Netflix subscriptions
Okay.
sometimes get like free trials just to watch stuff.
Sure.
You know, and
True.
it's based off of how many people watch it that by streaming and how many watch it the whole way through.
That's interesting.
Which, like, I have Apple TV. We'll have to watch it and make fun of it the whole time.
Genuinely, that would be fun.
Like, Brad Pitt's too old for this job, guys.
Like, you know how you make fun of Hallmark movies? I feel like that's gonna be actual fun.
Oh my gosh, it'll be so
they're gonna be
fun.
able to see all the actual discrepancies.
Like, it's gonna be so funny. Like, the fact that they got actual, like, F1 drivers in this movie is so funny to me. Like, we're all just gonna be sitting there watching for them.
Yes.
Instead,
Next
like, I really hope that
episode-
Charles takes over.
No, Charles. It's just like Colin Charles and his little dog. And it's actually just a documentary.
We're all just like, wait, where's the Ferrari beef?
Yeah, exactly. Like, where is that?
Like, imagine they got the behind the scenes of, like, Lewis signing onto Ferrari without Toto knowing.
I'd be dead. No, Toto said it, like, broke his heart. I mean, in not so many words, but...
Oh, gosh.
Now, guys...
This is going to be an interesting season.
We're still going to be here, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye!